the usual, I guess, minute for it to catch up just about?
Yeah, I'll let you know once it's going.
Okay, thank you. No, thanks, Adam.
Okay, it's good.
All right, thank you, Brian. Okay, good evening. It's at this time we will call the special meeting of the Wall Township Board of Education to order. Please stand for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Mr. Smythe, are you with us to do the sunshine announcement?
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you.
Good evening. This is the Wall Township Board of Education meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meeting Act was provided by a notice on the district's website on Friday, April 24th, 2020. Take a roll call. Mr. Gartz?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Krupa?
He raised his hand,
I'm
Brian.
Ms. Mangan?
Here.
Mr. Nasser?
Here.
Mr. Sanfilippo? Mr. Sanfilippo?
He's here. Chris, can you answer? Can you hear
He
Chris?
might be frozen.
Yes, I believe he is. He's
not
on the screen.
Or he's got a good poker face, not sure. Okay, Ms. Stites?
She is having trouble logging in.
Mr. Wondrak? Mr. Adenizio?
Here. Okay. Thank you. Just change. Okay. At this time, we will open up public comment. I will start. Let's see here. Bear with me 1 second while I try to turn the microphone. Miss Cross?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sorry.
It's all right. Betsy Cross. I live in Wall Township. Question. I just heard what Mr. Garth had said, that tell us to suck it up and wait until Tuesday, that you're not going to answer any questions. Really not what I want to hear on a Sunday night, that I also came here to do it.
Sunday night at 7, we're on for another reason, just tell them to suck it and we'll get back together. Okay, Ms. Cross, do you have any questions?
What, he just said don't answer anybody's questions, right? So it's great. I'm glad you're going to answer questions.
If we can answer, we will try. If not, you know,
I've been sending in questions for a long time, and you're not replying, Mr. Adenizio. I sent in questions on the budget. I mean, unless you're going to put up a budget that people can actually look at 48 hours in advance, you have until May 7th. Now's not the time during a pandemic to go to your 2% and not tell people where the money's going. Last year at this time, 2 weeks before the budget, we had a 421-page presentation that showed exactly where the money was going. Now you're the president, Mr. Adenizio, and we get a 6-page presentation, and it looks like a lot of money's going for raises. Right now, there should be a freeze on raises. There should be no administration getting any raises right now during the pandemic. So I wanted to mention that. Who's not on the call right now? It sounded like Ken's not on the call. Is Brian on the call? Is Mr. Cram on the call? I mean, you know, we're paying him a fair amount of money. And if you're having a meeting and you want to have parents on, you need to have the interim super here. And not tell parents to suck it up and wait until Tuesday. Not when you want my $67 million. If the 9 of you are going to pay the whole bill, you can do whatever you want. But don't, how dare Mr. Goretz tell us to suck it up? I would like you to go over what you're doing with the state aid increase. It's 488,027. Hard to believe you even got it. Who is going to be, what are you doing with that 488? There was no mention of it whatsoever. There's no mention of really anything of what you're doing with the money. So that's really what I want to know. Chatham put up a presentation a month ago. I told you all to go to it, so I hope you've had the time. They're spending roughly 16,000 per student via what they spend on the tax levy. We're spending close to 20,000. They're in a much higher ranking than we are. They do everything much better than we do, but we're here just told to suck it up while you want to approve the budget. A lot of people are out of work right now, so that mentality is terrible. I sent in information on the contract for Chase Bank that Mr. Smythe says he did a $1.4 million lease agreement with. There's no signatures on it. So we shouldn't have to wait until Mr. Cram gets to look at it. Mr. Smythe reports into you, the board and the super. If he doesn't have a signed contract from the bank, nobody would be writing checks for $1.4 million. You have no vendors listed for what you did the lease payment for. Who did the bank pay that they never signed the contract for? And they never had vendors and they never had amounts. So if Mr. Smythe could just tell us tonight who the bank was and what the payments were and who the vendors were. I hope you all watched last night, Bad Education, with Mr. Habel getting out of jail and Mr. Rotako getting out of jail. There was a lot of similarities here with what was happening in Long Island and what was happening in Wall. I mean, way too many. That's why I asked for these documents, and I shouldn't have to ask for them 8 months later and still don't have them. You have a fiduciary responsibility, and if something isn't adding up, it's your fiduciary responsibility and ethical responsibility to do something about it. You just don't tell us to suck it up and approve a $67 million budget on Tuesday. I mean, I was just, really taken away by that. But, I guess that's how you deal in all your meetings. God knows what goes on behind those closed doors. And behind the closed doors should only be discussing personnel tonight. Shouldn't be discussing anything else. And please let me know before you get off the call who's taking the minutes and who's going to be in that back room. And if whoever was missing, is Christine on
Ms.
now?
Cross, your time is up.
Right, so please.
I would like to say, Ms. Cross, you are incorrect that your questions are not answered. They are answered. Open requests are answered. But when you send questions to the board that's outside the board's purview, we can't answer them. Legally, we don't have the answers to them. Mr. Smythe, I don't know if you noticed Ms. Stites came in. She was on audio before she came in on video right after the meeting began.
Yes, I recorded that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Let's try this. It's Cheryl.
Yes.
Yes. Hi. You're next.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry, I joined the meeting just a few minutes ago. But I just wanted to ask the questions on, I just don't understand why raises are being brought up for staff. I mean, I'll give you an example. I was just furloughed for 12 weeks without pay. I know so many other people that are, and I just am just absolutely shocked that anyone would be asking for a raise in this environment, given that so many people are losing their jobs or temporarily out of work. I just need to understand that, and I want to find out, what the alternatives can be, because I'm just actually absolutely appalled that would even be brought up.
Okay, Cheryl. Did you have anything else, Cheryl?
No, that was really it.
The long and short of the answer is this, is that we have contracts with the collective bargaining units that we have to follow. And in addition to that, the Governor Murphy also, by executive order, I believe it was, said that we have to continue paying all employees as long as this is going on. So it's a twofold thing. We are bound by contracts, and we also have to follow the governor's orders on this. So as a school system, that's where we stand, and we certainly understand what you're saying, and certainly everybody else is feeling on certain issues, and it's out of our hands. There's nothing we can do about it.
Okay, but let me understand something. So you're saying, okay, I understand if there's orders and you're bound to certain contracts, but how is that tied to giving employees raises at this time?
Because it's negotiated raises as per pay scales. So it's already, when we approve a contract, it's typically for the union, it's a 3-year contract. So every year it just moves up to the next year. So unfortunately, there is that's the collective bargaining agreement, and there's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah, but I thought the administration contracts are up in July.
If they were settled, then it's a new contract. So that, unfortunately, that's all we have. But what I might suggest is, I mean, we're the board, but if you want deeper clarity on it, you can certainly email Dr. Cram, our superintendent, and he can get you all the background information, the dates when contracts were signed, and all the other information that pertains to that. Okay. Okay.
What is his email address?
It is on the bottom of the agenda. It's hcram@wall.k12.nj.us. Thank you. Kevin? Hello, Kevin? Kevin? No, Kevin. Okay. Miss Duran?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sorry, just couldn't get the mute to go
Unmuted.
off.
Okay.
Yes.
First, I also was online to hear Mr. Gart's very objectionable statement. He did not tell us to suck it up. He told us to suck it, which is crass and lewd and really shouldn't be tolerated at all. Really. I mean, I could just stand there and look at him right now. You don't tell me to suck it when it's public comment. Second, the whole thing that you just responded to Cheryl is false. Just so you know, the entire state, all the CBA, all the collective bargaining agreements with state, municipal, local employees are up for renegotiation during the pandemic. For example, all state employees that were non-essential, according to their contracts, have been designated essential and are being forced to work nonetheless, even though their contracts say otherwise. Same provisions for the raises. So Cheryl is well advised to take it up with Cram, but as a board, your hands off, we can't help it, is absolutely false. The state can, I mean, if the state can, you can renegotiate a temporary freeze on giving monies to administration during a pandemic when a large part of your population is doing without food. I think it's absolutely ridiculous to be giving people at that level of pay. First of all, they're being paid for doing virtually nothing now. And I'd be surprised if they're doing 2 hours worth of work a day, and to get a raise on top of it is absolutely unconscionable. And I'd like to urge the board to look into the collective bargaining argument that you just raised, because I believe 100% it is false. And as to the Mr. Superintendent Cram investigating the trailers. I'd hoped he'd be on this evening and wanted to thank him for undertaking to provide the timeline that I've asked for several months. And I'd like to make myself available at woods223@gmail.com for any questions he has as to why we are concerned with the timeline. What Betsy says is absolutely crucial, and I would not discount it lightly. The fact that there's no signed contract, the fact that there's no payee directed in the contract, the fact that the bank is not properly identified, all those are major problems. And they create a suspicious atmosphere where anybody reading it is well within their rights to question what went on. It's not something you should be taking a hostile attitude towards. It's a complete lack of transparency and accountability by Brian Smythe. And I'm so happy that Superintendent Cram is doing this, but I hope he reaches out to the public for some specific reasons as to why these things are pivotal for looking at it, in case he doesn't understand why. We're not just pissing into the wind. We're not spinning into the wind. And I'll address Joe Hall's comments at your next real meeting, where he acted as if I didn't know what I was talking about the interest. And I just wanted to let you know that will be coming on Tuesday, all things being equal. Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. You too. Robert? Robert? Hello, Robert, are you there? Robert? Okay. Seeing none, okay. Anybody else for public comment? Just raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
You don't need a motion. You just close public comment.
Oh, okay, sorry, just close.
It's okay.
Okay,
It's closed.
at this time, Brian, did you have anything you wanted offered this evening?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, we will be going into executive session number 6 on the agenda for item number 3, personnel matters. The board will not be taking any action this evening. Can I have a motion for executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Chris, second by Andy. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor. Okay, thank you. Everyone have a good evening. Be safe.